How's it going, everybody? Monday morning quarterback, episode 90. Approaching in on 100. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for 100, but hope you guys all had a fantastic start to your week. We still call this Monday morning quarterback, even though some time ago we segued from a morning show to evening, so our West Coast customers could catch it as well. And we certainly seem to have better participation in the evening, but Monday morning quarterback has a good ring to it. So glad you guys could join us. Back from the 24 hours of DeCoin. We had a couple long days over there, a lot of race cars. They had a lot of racing to get in, and it was certainly good to catch up with a bunch of customers. There was micros there, junior sprints, and D2 midgets and 1200s. So a lot going on. Emerson Axum picked up the outlaw win over there on the first night on our shocks, and ran second on the final night. And Lincoln Smith won the junior sprint race over there on the first night and led the whole thing on the second night and ran out of fuel with like 2 laps to go. So that was a bummer for him. But good start to the year for a lot of our guys and gals. Jade Avedisian picked up the opening win of the Now 600 in the restricted class. Mark Smith has continued to rule his dominance in the 360 scene, picking up his 4th and 5th win of the year in the USCS. And he's been doing a lot of development for us with our new shock, so he's gotten that thing in victory lane a bunch of times. And then out west to kick off the ASCS season, Matt Covington won on our shock, so that was awesome, and we're certainly proud of the effort that he put in. I think he run 4th from mid-pack there the second night, so I believe he's leading the points in the ASCS early going. But those guys go to California this week, so going to be cool to see how they how the local California guys stack up against the ASCS regulars. There's a lot of fast 360 guys that race California, so cool to see ASCS going back there. So I'm taking the weekend off. My wife and I are going on a vacation, leaving Thursday. So if you need something from CSI Thursday through next Wednesday, get a hold of Jake or Ronnie or somebody here at the shop, and they'll get you taken care of. I'm going to be out of the country for about 5 days, so kind of recharge our batteries. It's the first vacation my wife and I have taken by ourselves since we've had little ones, so that'll be fun. We're going to Antigua, so get some warm weather. It's still pretty chilly here in Indiana, but the trailer will be going to DeCoin for the Shamrock on Saturday. So micro guys, if you don't see us there Friday, we're just coming over Saturday for the final part of the micros and the midget stuff. So that's what we got going on here at CSI so far. But we're going to cut over to this video that I filmed with Brett earlier today, and he goes into detail, kind of the second part of the design and development and manufacturing process, how we do things here at CSI. And so we're going to share that video with you, and then I will come back and answer all your questions regarding that, your race car, pit logic, anything else you may have. So without further ado, enjoy this 6-7 minute video.
Hey guys, it's Brett again. So this is part 2 of the design process. Last week, part 1, we finished up here with the 3D printing. So we mentioned, you pull the parts off there and you can check fit and finish and ergonomics of the parts. And then after that process is done, we'll move over to build drawings to send out for our prototyping with our prototyping partners. So building drawings, it allows the machinists and the CNC programmers to look at our design intent and figure out what we intended on the design and the tolerancing so they can best program our parts. So in building a drawing, you want to examine tolerancing across the part. You want to spec out your material, and you want to spec out what finish we're looking for, surface finish across the part. The biggest part of building a drawing is specifying tolerancing, and in tolerancing you have to understand that no machine can hit exactly the value that you're looking for on a print. So you have to to build in allowances to the part to allow for a CNC to hit a certain range of values when they're machining. So as soon as that's done, we'll send this out along with the part model to our partner, our manufacturing partner, and have them get rolling on our prototypes. All right, so as soon as we get the parts back from our partners, they will look like this raw piece here, and we'll take the raw pieces in the back and we'll hand fit all of the parts together to ensure they mate correctly, they thread correctly, thread's not binding, there isn't any burrs. We visually check them, and then we do inspection on them with micrometers and other inspection tools to ensure that they hit the tolerances that we called out on the drawing. And as soon as that's done, we will send them off to our anodizing partner or our other coating partner if we are coating shafts. And this will allow a greater corrosion resistance, as well as just a greater aesthetic to the part. And then we'll bring this back in house. And then after that, we'll laser etch the identification on each part before we go into our testing process. Our testing process involves building it as it would for a regular car in the back with our builders, and then we will run through iterative tests on the dyno where we check each individual click setting if it's an adjustable shock, run through all of our shim iterations and preload iterations throughout all of our shock settings. That will give us a read on if the shock is doing what is intended by our design. And with that, we will then go into reliability testing in the shop here on our dyno. We'll just run it non-stop for a specified amount of time. We'll check seal drag throughout. We'll check all of our values to make sure that we're not losing any pressure anywhere. We don't have any leaks coming out past O-rings. And that all of our intent is correct. So after that, we will run into the on-track testing portion. So that will generally be with Garrett and Jake at the track. They'll normally oversee those projects, and so we'll be there at the track with a shock we're confident in, with respect to reliability from our in-shop testing. And from there, we'll put it on a car and run it hard on the track and look over it every night. Post dyno, post check for any leaks. If it's rougher on the track, then we can see on our dyno to do any final checks throughout the process. We'll get driver feedback on if how the car feels, how it's reacting, what the feedback is, if it's responding well to adjustment. And then obviously check and make sure there's not any wear from unexpected wear from dirt or rocks or anything that you will see on track that we can then come back and iterate on our design here in the shop. So that is the testing process for the prototyping process. All right, so we're looking at the overall time frame of the project. The overall time allocation of each project depends on the scope of the project. So for the X4, for example, generally you're looking at around a year turnaround time from conception to completion, from when we're sitting down in our initial design meetings to when we have a production run complete and ready to put in customers' hands. With respect to a piston design or for example that transponder for the quarter midget cars I referred to last week, that can be a turnaround of just maybe a few days with the technology of rapid prototyping with 3D printing, where you can go from concept to running through designs in our CAD software to just throwing designs on the printer and having them back in 2 hours so we can check fitment and then put it on the shelf. So that's generally our range of project time depending on each individual project.
So Brett did a good job there of kind of explaining how we finish out the design process, get a product to market. There's certainly a lot that goes into it. Brett's a big part of that as our design engineer, and then just getting it on race cars and feedback from drivers, and that's what's so important, because it can look perfect on paper, perfect in CAD, and then maybe not feel so perfect on the race car. So I feel like we are continually pushing that envelope, trying to always make our stuff better and stay on that cutting edge. It's a fine line of having what we feel is the best product, but also keeping it cost effective for our end user. So there's certainly technologies out there that could make some big strides as far as mechanical grip and such, but it's just not practical cost wise, and we would spend all that time and resources developing and getting it to market, I think, and it would just get outlawed just strictly due to the price, which rightfully so. I don't want to see these race cars have shocks on them that are a couple $1,000s a corner. It's just it's not good for the sport, in my opinion, and certainly it can get that expensive if you start using some of those technologies. So Pete, thanks for tuning in. Glad we got some shocks coming for you. And same, Steve, glad you tuned in. Congratulations on Levi's success. Look like you guys are off to a great start out there on the West Coast. So hopefully I get to see at some races. I think you mentioned in Vegas you were coming to the Brickyard, and we don't have a Brickyard this year. So hopefully you can make it out to another national event. That would be awesome. Eric Long, drawings are no fun. That's what you do for a living, so love your job. You should love drawings. So anybody that's tuned in, feel free to fire away with questions. Be happy to answer any racing related questions, pit logic questions, and I would also like to hear back from you guys what other topics you want covered in future episodes. So next week is a replay because I'm not going to be in town, but I do have a couple other ones up my sleeve for you guys to show you some new things. I apologize that it's a little dark in here. As I was turning on, I have a little backup light that goes in my office to brighten it up for these videos, and the bulb burn out when I flip the switch to get started here. So one of the things I'm looking forward to most in designing and building our new shop is having a designated podcast room, because when people walk in my office, they're like, what are you doing in here? Because there's these little bitty temporary lights everywhere that I use on Monday nights. So nobody has any questions tonight. Who is getting started racing here soon? We've heard from Steve. They're quarter midget racing out in California already. We know a lot of our sprint car guys on the West Coast have already kicked off. Has your season started? Where are you racing at soon? Shamrock this week. And then I don't know if there's anything going on around here the following week. Supercross at Indy. It's always fun to go to. And then that third week is the Pit Logic Carolina Clash, so we'll be going to that. And then I think the following week is the No Way Out 40, which for you history buffs, that is where CSI got its start. So 2009, I was working at Andretti's IndyCar shop, and Jake Argo, who's our production manager here, he was crew chiefing and taking care of a young kid from California who moved to Indiana named Nick Foss. And I got a set of Penske gas shocks and kind of worked them over and did some little tricks that I'd learned through my years of NASCAR and IndyCar, and valved them up for Nick's sprint car. And he beat Brian Clausen to win the No Way Out 40. So very first race, we had a set of CSI shocks on the car. We won, so that was super, super cool. And another fun side story, good buddy Jeff Troyer, who doesn't have Facebook, he helped crew with Jake on that car that pretty much that whole summer. And we worked out of the same shop, the little office that I rented that I built shocks in, which is about the size of my office here. I was building shocks at night and working in Andretti's during the day. Nick worked out of the back of that shop with Ricky Ergot. And so we all kind of worked together and went to races that summer. Jeff Troyer just found that car that Nick won the No Way Out 40. It's basically a frame and body, and he just bought it a couple weeks ago. So he plans to restore it. So maybe someday we'll have that in our shop. So a little bit of CSI history. Carl sending some through shafts in for a checkup. Awesome. We'll keep our eye out for those. Yeah, Dave, thanks for tuning in. We might have to get Dave back on for another safety segment now that he's a full-time safety guy. He's probably too big time for our show. He was on Rip the Fence last week, so our little Monday morning podcast probably is to see celebrity status for Dave now. But we would love to have him back on to talk more safety. We'll have some of his 600 knee guards in our trailer at DeCoin again this week if anybody needs any. So Eric Long, what's my opinion on lug nuts? Well, one, that's all a sprint car needs. That's all an Indy car needs. Why would a stock car need any more than that? Honestly, all those changes down there, I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I see there's going to be a lot of people getting let go from teams down there because they're not going to need as many people to run this new car. And so for that, I'm sad because I have a lot of buddies who work down there. I worked down there at one point, and there's just going to be a lot of people out of work. So, Pete, we do have clamps for our shock adjuster. It's actually a piece that Hyper made, and I thought they were really cool. So we bought a bunch of them from Hyper, and we have them on our website, or you can get them if you came in the shop. So they have a couple different sizes depending on the size tubing you have, and it's a really slick little billet clamp that you can clamp to the chassis and then bolt our shock adjuster to. So if your car's already powder coated and you don't have studs for your shock adjuster, this is a slick little clamp to put them wherever you want in your car. So yeah, we do have those. Anybody else have any questions? Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 90. I'm going to have to do something fun for 100. That'll be a good one. We're a couple months away from that. We'll be right in the thick of the season. It'll be hot here by then. And I'm looking forward to that. So, nobody else has any questions. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and share our videos so we can help spread the word. And we look forward to catching up with you guys next week. Hope you all have a fantastic week. Take care.